What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Training Simplified podcast. My name is Matt with Training Simplified, and I'm really excited today to be joined by TJ Schier, industry vet, and launching an exciting new venture that he's going to tell us about today. And he has been all over the place with a bunch of brands that you will recognize and that you'll know, and is a big believer in what we're all about, that it's all about people development, and making sure that people are bought into a vision to be able to bring a mission and a business and key priorities to life. So I'm excited to be joined with TJ today. What's up, man?
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Matt. Looking forward to this conversation. It's always great to talk training.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, let's just if you could just kind of right out of the gate, kind of break down this industry that you're in. I never know kind of what to call it, because it's like right, it's sort of these like fun experiences. I know you were at Chuck E. Cheese for many years.
Mm-hmm.
You've been with these different like golf immersive brands, these companies, and you're launching something new. Can you kind of give us an overview of that space and how you explain it to people and what makes it different from the just normal, I guess, restaurants and
Sure.
hospitality?
I think if you rewind 45 years ago, when I think Chuck E. Cheese, actually probably 47 years ago, I think Chuck E. Cheese started in 77. I joined them in 83. And that was really, I think, when Eatertainment started. And then it evolved through places like Dave and Buster's and Rainforest Cafe and Planet Hollywood, where there was food, but really people weren't going there to eat. They were eating while they were there. It was more for the fun or the experience or the activity. And so we've obviously seen that evolve into all different kind of sports now. And a lot of people call them competitive socializing venues because you're typically out with a group of friends or your family and you're competing, whether it's putting or throwing darts or various different games out there. And some people are even calling it sports entertainment. So it's very blurry lines here. I'm kind of FEC, which is Family Entertainment Center, which is kind of more, the urban airs, the Chuck E. Cheese's, Dave and Buster's. And then competitive socializing are more kind of the pop strokes, the putt shacks, those type of places where you're in a friendly way competing with everybody else that's in your group. And by the way, you probably eat and drink while you're there too.
That's great. That's perfect. I love it. I think of those entertainment places. First thing that comes to my mind when I think of Chuck E. Cheese, which I know was, a chapter in your story, as you mentioned. Like I had a Chuck E. Cheese birthday party when I was a kid. My son has had a Chuck E. Cheese birthday party. I had a Chuck E. Cheese birthday party in Wichita, Kansas growing up. My
Wow.
son had a Chuck E. Cheese birthday in Costa Mesa, California,
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago. And it's, I don't know, it's iconic. It's sort of, I don't know, rite of passage is not the right word, but yeah, there's something there that it's like even multi-generational.
Well, Chuck E. Cheese kind of gets a bad rap, and I worked there from 83 to '01. I was there for 18 years, and the first few years in the restaurants, and then I moved into their corporate support center. And I always, kind of got offended because there was, oh, the food's terrible and the place is dirty. It really wasn't like that, but I get the perception of that, and it probably was at the beginning, but they really kind of cleaned it up. And they got smart a long time ago and really just kind of narrowed down. When I joined them in 83 or whatever, it was 100 video games and a few skee ball machines, and that was it, and they evolved it into more of a kind of a kids 2 to 7. And they own that space. I can tell you, my kids were 5 and 7 when I quit. They were pissed. I was the coolest dad in the world because I worked for Chuck E. Cheese when they were 5 and 7. They were prime age right there. And they weren't real happy when I left, but they had their parties there, and it was crazy because my daughter actually had her 29th birthday there in New York, more kind of just as a, hey, fun, nostalgic kind of throwback because she hadn't been there in like 22, 23 years and had her birthday party there, and everybody had a blast.
That's awesome. That's great. I would love to just hear a little bit about this. You're launching this new venture, the CEO
Mm-hmm.
of SmashSwing. To give us all the details. Let us know. And speaking of, I see
Yeah,
you're there
you can
right now.
kind of see it behind me. Yeah, this is our demo warehouse right here. I worked for Chuck E. Cheese for 18 years. I left in '01, and I was a speaker and a consultant for 2 decades, and worked with a lot of hospitality companies. I still speak. I do a lot of franchise conventions and GM conferences, really talking about how to develop teams, grow systems. We were a franchisee for a long time. We were a large multi-unit franchisee of Which Wich for 17 years. So I'm an operator by heart. I love doing this, and being a speaker and owning restaurants during COVID was kind of a double whammy. And I decided to go get a real job. And I was fortunate enough to be hired by a brand called BigShots Golf, which was a competitor to the 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace. We opened 6 venues in 20 months. So you talk about, one, figure everything out when you have one venue, and then two, literally just have this massive rapid growth and a big facility, 40, 50,000 square foot restaurant, 60 tee boxes. And I looked at that and we had a blast. The team that we had at Big Shots was awesome. We built a great culture. That's where I met the Savannah Bananas and kind of got that whole, let's just do this a lot differently. And I thought we built a cool culture. Unfortunately, the brand got sold to the 800-pound gorilla, and all of us left. But we learned a lot. And what I learned there was, I love family entertainment. I love hospitality and competitive socializing. I want to run my own venues, but I don't want to build a 14-acre, $40 million facility. There's just not a lot of those out there. And so what I did was I kind of harkened back to what I learned at Chuck E. Cheese, which was, let's build a product that can change over time so that we can invite people back in more frequently. And if you think about your own personal experiences, how often do you go to family entertainment centers or competitive socializing venues? Once or twice a year. Hey, the new thing opens in town, you go try it, then you maybe go back once or twice because you've been there and you've done that. So we have built a very large scale multiplayer simulator. If you're into golf, you've been to an indoor simulator, you hit it 10 feet into a small screen. If you're not a serious golfer, they're not that much fun. They're really not appealing to non-golfers at all. So what we've done is we've built video games on the walls, and we have 3 to 24 players can play the same game at the same time. So this is not really a golf simulator where you're kind of hitting, playing a virtual course one at a time. This is everybody gets in the game. We actually, right above my head here, I've got cameras, so everybody gets a video of their game that they played as part of the experience, because I want them to go out and promote this on social media. Yeah. So we're really kind of trying to take the gaming approach to getting people into golf and making it fun. So we'll build our own venues, but currently right now, that's kind of a 2026 thing as we move down the path a little bit. But we're actually licensing these to family entertainment centers, golf courses. We're actually working on a pilot in a movie theater. That screen behind me right there is 20 feet high and 30 feet wide. Movie theater screens are even higher, which is great for us. So we envision over the next 6 months of 2025 starting to put these into some family entertainment centers, some movie theaters, and then ultimately building our own venues. And I'm telling you, I am taking everything I've learned in 4 decades in this space to really build a killer team, treat the guests like we want to be treated, like it is a cool spectator arena experience, but even treat the teams better. Because I remember saying at Big Shots Golf, I never want to hire another GM from the outside, because we could take the person that doesn't understand a P&L or doesn't understand inventory or doesn't understand how to make schedule, but gets what we're smoking and really kind of understands kind of who we are. And our theme back then was, here, everyone's a big shot. It was great. We wanted to treat everyone like a big shot. And I could take somebody that could get that and teach them all the other stuff. It was real hard to take somebody that knew everything but couldn't really fit into the culture that we were trying to create. They struggled in our brand. And so as we go out and launch this one, it is going to really be an amalgam of kind of Big Shots Golf and Chuck E. Cheese and the Savannah Bananas and Walk On, some other companies that I've worked with in the past. And really, I mean, I'm a Chipotle fan. I'm a massive Chipotle fan, as you can probably tell. But really just picking and choosing the best of the things that I've experienced as a consumer and a consultant and an operator over the years and putting it all into one.
That's amazing. That's really interesting to me. That so what you guys are developing right now is it's more of a product.
Yes.
Instead of a venue, but you want to eventually have your own venues that house your product as well.
Correct. And the product for us is really solving the problem with, how do you get a consumer to come back to these places frequently? Because again, once you've been there, you kind of have done this. Well, the beauty of what we're building here is we'll have a game library of 6 to 8 games. So we'll have a holiday game. We'll have a Halloween game. We're really kind of becoming a marketing company for our licensees, because we'll be out there promoting, hey, come to SmashSwing venues to play this holiday game, limited time offer. We're having a competition. Whoever wins this thing gets a prize, gift card, whatever the product is, to drive people into the venues. And then we're also working with some licensed IP. So kind of think famous movies, famous board games, famous characters. We're going to build those type of games to tap into those fan bases, because as an example, nobody knows who SmashSwing is, but if we get the coolest, hottest movie product right now, they have a massive fan base. And if that gets promoted out on social media, people are going to go, oh my gosh, there's a game about that, or that movie now has a game to it. Where can I play that? And that's going to, again, drive people into the venues and hopefully solve the frequency experience that many of these places have, because they have a really busy year one and then they just crater and fall and just kind of go off the cliff. And we want to solve that problem for them.
Great. I'd love to hear more. I love this this culture piece that you mentioned, especially. I really like how you mentioned, you just had this I don't know what you called it, like your theme or your anthem. Here everyone's a big shot, because there's so much power in sort of having pithy, memorable, I guess, purpose statement to like people, and it's something that people can rally around. And that's just such a clear and distinct, memorable vision. Dude, was that intentional? Was that something that you feel like was impactful for people to have that?
The coolest thing about the one at Big Shot, so I would always get hired when I was a consultant to come in and build training programs, and I would always say, look, I've got to, who are you? Like, what kind of service do you want us? Anybody can build training programs. Heck, you can just pull up Chat GPT now and get your own training program. So I would always work with clients and say, look, who are you? What do you want to be? What's the mantra for the guest? What is that kind of tagline? And it was amazing because 40 something years ago when I worked at Chuck E. Cheese, I didn't realize this, but they had a tagline, every guest leaves happy. That was literally the North Star. The little angel pops up on your shoulder every time you're like, do I do this or not? And the angel pops up and says, every guest leaves happy. And that's the right answer. And they're still using that thing 40 something years later. And so when I got to become a Which Wich franchisee, it wasn't defined for us, but Which Wich was really a very unique concept. And we heard, wow, every time, wow, you have 51 sandwiches. Wow, you fill out a bag. So we created our own as a franchisee. It said, make the guests say wow. And that was our little angel pop up on the shoulder. When I got to Big Shots, the marketing team had already created, here, everyone's a big shot. And it was really an outward facing, guest facing message. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for internal. And so as an example, what we did, our training team, the whole team at Big Shots was amazing. It was just a group of misfits that we kind of came together, and were fortunate enough to be able to build something from the ground up. Very few people get to be a part of that, but we actually had, when we would do a new venue orientation, we'd hire 100, 150 employees. We literally had the management and the opening training team. The first hour everybody worked for us, and you can imagine 150 people coming in. We literally sat them in 25 tee boxes, 6 people a bay. They didn't know who the other people were, but we're like, look, we're feeding you. You're going to be a guest for an hour here. And then we went up and brought them into the event room and started orientation. And the whole piece was, how'd you feel? Man, I felt like a big shot. Man, that was awesome. That was great. Yep, that is our tagline. We made you feel like a big shot. Now we're going to train you how to do that for every guest. And so I think it was just one of those things where all the pieces fit together well. And we really just latched onto that. And the beauty for me and everybody that was on in the team is the general managers or the DOs that ran our operations, they kept that program moving forward. So even on a Monday, if they only had 2 employees started, the first hour that they worked for them, they got welcomed in as a guest. They got sat in the tee box. They ate. They played golf. They did all the games. And then they went in and started doing the orientation. And that was really the kind of the start of the culture piece there. It was great to we had people from Dave and Buster's and some marketing companies and a chef that really just all kind of got what we were trying to do. And it was really, really cool.
Yeah. I'm curious what your thoughts are on like being able to only promote a manager from within. Like you mentioned that's how you're going to do it going forward. Like what's that look like for you? Does that mean like when you're hiring someone for whatever entry level role you might have in your mind, you're like, this is someone who could be a manager? Like, is that always kind of the drive?
Well, I think it's tough, especially when we were a new brand. You can't physically do that, especially when you're growing so fast. So again, you have to hire some people from the outside. But once you get going, the idea is to really try and promote everybody from within, because I want to give a career path to everybody. I want people to understand. I always get offended, having been in the restaurant industry since I was 16 years old, 42 years. People are like, oh, that's not a real job. And I'm like, all right, hold on a second. I mean, you look at the restaurant, Chipotle, you work for Chipotle. I mean, their GMs are making 6 figures. That's a real job.
Yeah. People
that have worked in the restaurant can probably handle just about anything. And so we wanted to just create a path for people, so that I always used to tell people, look, hey, we had a location at close to Texas A&M University. Being a Texas Longhorn, A little bit tough to be down there, but hey, we won this year. So, but I would always tell people, like, look, you're a marketing major. People like Big Shots and other restaurants, they need marketing people. Or you're an accountant, there's people that, or finance, or there's so many possibilities to go work in a corporate office for support. And you're very valuable if you understand what it's like to be in the restaurant, because that's the customer that you ultimately serve. And so we just tried to get people into a path somewhere that they wanted to go, and keep them in the system, whether it was go work at the corporate office or you come up and be an intern, or be a GM. I mean, we promoted some people that probably didn't have the best resume, but they had the best attitude, and they wanted to learn and they wanted to learn, and they kept asking questions and asking questions. And those are the kind of people that you want, because they're going to do the same thing with all the people that report to them. And the GM's the ultimate, they're the ones that have the most impact on a company, and you have to get the right GMs. And then it's a little simpler after that.
Yeah. I also love that idea. I feel like it's so much about listening to people and like hearing, as somebody in leadership, like hearing what people actually want. Like if they're like, oh, I actually want to go into marketing, I actually want to go into accounting, or they're like hearing that people are asking a lot of questions. Like when you just listen to people and hear what they actually want out of life and out of a job, I feel like you can help create that for them in this industry. And you know what I mean? And yeah,
Yeah, I think for me personally, that was one of the things I struggled with, is listening. Because, it's like, if you're, especially the higher you go up the food chain, you're there for a reason. You're working on stuff at 10,000 feet. But if you don't give the time to the people that are taking care of the ultimate guest, they're going to leave, and they're going to think that you, the leadership, are blowing them off. I mean, you and I were talking before we got on the air, and your first day at Chipotle, getting to fly around Monty Moran, the former co-CEO. Those moments are so impactful the higher that you get up the food chain. And I was not good at it initially, and I had to get good at it, because you could see the impact of people that are saying, hey, look, this is just what I want to do. And I think the other thing is, you have to, as a leader, you have to let go. I built training programs for 100 years. The director of training at Big Shots can attest. I really wanted my fingerprints all over that thing, but I had to say, look, it's yours. You take it. She did a great job with it. I had some input, but I couldn't bog down in one task, because then I'm doing a disservice to everybody else in the company. And so, as a leader, you have to be out there, and you want to set the pace and set the tone, but you really kind of have to swoop down and get back up, and swoop down and get back up, but really listen, like you said, to your teams there. And it's hard. I mean, I didn't get groomed by a bunch of people when I was working in the industry that way. So it wasn't, my view of what a leader did was not that. And I had to learn that behavior. Yeah. You had to learn that behavior.
Man, I not to harp on it, but I do think Monty was just a really good example of that. He was, for those who don't know, Monty, the former co-CEO at Chipotle, and he would spend a lot of time just going in and listening to people. And he was a lawyer by trade, so it was a lot of like fact gathering and information gathering, right?
Interrogation, huh?
Yeah, a little bit of that there. But like he would just go into a restaurant, and his leadership, he taught other people to do it, to go in and just ask a lot of questions, and ask like every employee, like, what do you think should change in this restaurant? What do you think your GM should be doing differently? Stuff like that. CEOs don't normally do that. And, I experienced that. I mean, even in the corporate environment, within our team, it was like, well, what do you think, your leader should be doing differently? How would you run your department if you were doing, questions like that? And that's really pretty rare and really, really impactful from my experience.
Yeah, it's funny. I was a consultant for 20 years, and one of the things I learned is I have no power. I'm a consultant, and we all know what people think of consultants, and I get it to a degree, because we've all seen them. But I learned early on, if somebody was going to hire me to go, hey, we're going to create our guest service program, or we're going to redo the back house training, whatever the case may be, I said, look, I am going to have frontline employee meetings, no managers in there. I call them town halls, and I want to do kind of just what you outlined there. What do you guys think? And I made sure it didn't become a gripe fest. But a lot of companies, when they're afraid to let you do that with no managers there, that tells you a lot about their culture. And I've had some of those where they said, we will have somebody in there, and I can guarantee you whatever I'm going to do is not going to work, because they're micromanaging, they're top down, and they're their own problem because they're in their own way. And as a consultant, if you learn and then you put some of their ideas into the programs that you create, the employees feel like it's their program. They created it, and people won't argue with their own stuff. They'll argue with everybody else's, but they won't argue with their own stuff. And so I think that is one of those leadership superpowers. You see this all the time. A general manager or a multi-unit manager takes over a location or a district, and that person probably, maybe they just got promoted. And it's like, oh, this place sucks. It's terrible. How'd this guy get promoted? And they come in there and go, this is how we're going to do everything right now. And you can just see the demeanor of the staff just go down the toilet real quick, instead of just saying, hey, I'm here to learn. I'm the new guy. What do you know? And I know at Big Shots, that really helped me, because I just went in, just open ears, shut mouth, and said, what's working? What do you want this to be? This is kind of a blank tablet. Let's go. And again, took the old man a little while here, but it pays off.
I'm curious what you think, and maybe a lot of it is some of the stuff that you just said, so feel free to repeat or summarize. But what, in your experience, in your opinion, of being both within a brand and then as a consultant outside of a brand, and seeing things done the wrong way and seeing things done the right way when it comes to culture, what do you think are like the hallmarks? I'm not sure the right word, or the sort of the touchstones of like a really strong quality culture and a hospitality brand?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the recipe, if you will. I think having that tagline or that mantra is critical, because it just gives people the North Star. It's just, this is what we are doing. You see the long mission statements. I can't remember one mission statement from any company I ever worked for, but like I always remembered, every guest leaves happy, make the guests say, wow, here everyone's a big shot. Those are and then the ones we created for other companies. It's the rallying cry that gives people the purpose for what we're doing. And it helps the managers, when they're coaching and correcting behaviors, say, look, what's the tagline? Make the guests say, wow. Well, how did locking the doors early make the guests say, wow? It did. It made them say, wow, the wrong way, right? So we could always go back to, it's not personal. It's, we're trying to drive the mission. And then I think the second piece is to really, you have to hire the people that will be successful in those environments. And then the third piece is you have to reward those behaviors. And I'll use a simple example. If I had 6 people that it took me to run lunch at Which Wich, and one person calls off, the other 5 people are like, oh, great, the shift's going to go down the toilet, and the customers feel it, the service takes too long, the product, we're making mistakes. Flip that around, go to the 5 employees and say, look, Johnny called off today. I'm going to take, everybody gets an extra $1 an hour here for the whole lunch shift. And the 2 criteria, no mistakes, nothing goes over our standard cook time. Now, all of a sudden, I got 5 people working really hard to just nail it, because they're all going to make $1 more an hour, because I just made the employees say, wow. So they'll say, make the guests say, wow. And they'll come back to me and say, look, tell Johnny we don't need him anymore. We can run this with 5. And it's the same people that were running it with 6 before, except for the 1. And so I think it's really create that clear mission, find people that can execute that level, and then reward that. And again, the managers have to live this, because if I'm just trying to bribe them to do stuff, we've all worked for people that try and do that. That stuff doesn't work. People see right through that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hear you saying in there, when you're talking about finding that mission and that rallying cry, it's like inspiring people by, like, letting people be inspired by that rallying cry or that mission too. Like, yeah.
In here, it's like if you go to a sporting, this is where I think it really kind of resonated with Big Shots, because again, it was a sports-based thing. We created a branded restaurant, the marketing team did, and they called it Anthem. So the tagline became, hey, here everyone's a big shot. Every big shot has an anthem. So then it was like, what's your walkout music? So like when we were doing a new venue opening, every trainer had their own walkout song, and we all had our anthem. The anthem's the rallying cry. And so again, everything fit together in that brand. So it made sense to the consumer outwardly, but it also made sense to the consumer inward, or the employees inwardly. And I think people have to be real defined with what they're doing. The employees will tell you, they'll help create this. I didn't create any of these. These are things that just came organically out of focus groups with employees, and words that come out that talk a lot. Because again, I could tell everybody in any restaurant to say, you better say my pleasure or else. And we're closed on Sundays. And guess what? That magic formula, closing on Sundays and forcing your people to say my pleasure, is not the secret sauce that makes Chick-fil-A Chick-fil-A. People think that from the outside. It's the culture and who they have. And kind of that pointing of the North Star in the right direction.
Yeah. You know, you've touched on sort of the family entertainment centers and the
Hmm.
entertainment industry and kind of your thoughts on it. Like, what do you think is what do you think is the future of that? I mean, if it's not sustainable to open up all these locations and so, I mean, what? Not to
No,
maybe this is a can of worms. I don't know, but what? Yeah. Well, what do you think is the future of that?
I wrote a whole article about why people struggle in this space,
Yeah.
and it was in FSR magazine. But what happens is you see somebody come on with a cool idea, and I don't want to name any names because there's some very successful companies right now. Dave and Buster's has been around, Chuck E. Cheese has been around. Some people have figured this out, but what happens is you start building these venues. They're very successfully initially, and then private equity or venture capital money comes in and says, build a whole bunch of these. But then what happens is the sales start falling off the initial ones that you open, and soon down the road, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 10 years, sometimes for large golf entertainment companies it's 20 years, and then all of a sudden everybody wakes up one day and goes, "What happened?" Well, the foundation cracked a long time ago. You guys just kept building more floors on the house, and it's going to fall down. And really it's the ability to reinvent yourself. What everybody gets wrong is they always unfortunately focus on, we're going to have food so good people are going to eat here or come here to eat, and they're not. You have to have good food because they're going to eat while they're there. But for me to convince somebody when I was at Big Shots to come eat at Big Shots Golf, if you scroll on your phone and put in restaurants near me and you see Big Shots Golf come up, you're not going to think, oh, I'm going there to eat, because it's a golf company, And so you need to keep a simple menu, knock it out of the park with some great food that your customers want. Keep it simple. You don't need poke bowls and sushi and salmon because people just want wings and beer and burgers and pizzas there. But just do it right. Kind of, it's the more of less is what I would tell you. Just have less on the menu, less, and do it right. The problem when some of these places are one trick ponies, like they have one thing to do, once people have done it, why go back? And that's where, like in this case, we're trying to solve that problem with buy one piece of hardware and generate the repeat business through the software and the marketing of that. I mean, Chuck E. Cheese, they remodel their places every 3 or 4 years. Right now, they're putting trampolines in and dance floors, and it's ninja courses. They're an activity-based kids place, which is not what it was when I was there. Urban Air used to be a trampoline park. Now it's an indoor amusement center. And those are the kind of things that brands have to evolve. And on the other end of the spectrum, some people try and do too much and be everything to everybody. A batting cage, a batting simulator doesn't make sense in Big Shots Golf because the title says golf. It doesn't fit. The customer's not coming there for that. So I think these brands just need some clarity on who they are, and then how are they going to get the consumer to come back. I always loved, from an employer standpoint, these places are fun. I can't imagine owning an auto parts store where or a repair shop, everybody's coming in there's hacked off. My car's broken down. This is a grudge purchase. I don't want to be here. Family entertainment's like, man, this is awesome. Restaurants, I'm hungry. Hotels, I want to come here and have a good time. The hospitality business is very easy to recruit for if it's not that perception of, oh, this is just a terrible place to work. And there's enough of those out there, unfortunately. But I think it's a blast to work in this industry, and it's great. It's easy to create a culture in a fun place like these.
Yeah. I That's perfect. That's great. It is fun. It is super fun. So thank you for bringing the fun with these industries, this industry that you've been a part of, and contributed so much to. I'm curious, where if somebody are you still open for speaking and this kind of stuff? Like, where if someone's interested in that, how do they?
Sure. I think the kind of tjschier.com, just my name.com, is my speaker website and my consulting website. I don't do a lot of consulting because this is keeping me pretty busy. But Matt, one of the groups that I've been in for 30 years is called CHART. It's a Council of Hotel and Restaurant Trainers, and I'd feel remiss if we didn't give them a shameless plug, because that's where I started in that group in 1994, probably before most of the listeners were born here. But that's where I learned in this industry that people share, and you can actually go somewhere. I was a training director. Luckily, the HR person from Chuck E. Cheese sent me to this conference. She says, look, you need to go there and learn from all these other people. You're trying to solve problems that people have already solved, and they'll happily share that with you. And that was great, because that was kind of like AI 30 years ago when we didn't have AI on the computer. And those kind of things really help people grow. So I would urge anybody to get involved in that group. And then SmashSwingImmersive.com is our new golf one. That's obviously a little bit nichey here, but that's what we're working on these days. And I'm happy to help people. And it's like going to the doctor. I'll tell you what I think. You may not like to hear it sometimes. I mean, when I go to the doctor, he tells me I weigh too much. I shouldn't be mad at him. I should be mad at myself, right? And so we're going to give you the diagnosis and the prescription. But that's, again, we're trying to make the industry better. We're trying to make working in this hospitality business get the respect that it needs out there in the world, because there's so many people that do so many great things, and we take care of so many people and employ so many people that we can all have a chance to make a big impact.
That's great. Well, I'm stoked to see what where you take SmashSwing. I'm excited to see it, and yeah, I couldn't agree more about that chart. Shout out everybody that we talked to there. My experience with the chart is just that it's just the consistent thing that I keep hearing, and I think you saw that video that we put together with them that like said it's about, you know, people get each other. It's like you go to a place where like, hey, everybody here gets me because they're doing the same
Yes.
thing, facing the same struggles, trying to build the same stuff, and that's just a really rare experience. So yeah,
Yeah, and I don't mean to make light of this, but I describe it as an AA for trainers, because you walk in there and you go, I have a problem. Can somebody help me? I want help. And that's really what that organization's about. You know, I have a problem, and can you help me? And it really is a great group. And again, there's a lot of companies that don't participate because they don't want to share. And I'm like, okay, come on. I mean, you know, training a cook is training a cook. What are you going to really, we're not trading the confidential secret sauce recipes, but you know, trying to create a cool training program or a cool culture or a great orientation. It's wonderful to see what some of these other companies do, so you have a frame of reference, because there are very few professions in the training or in the restaurant industry that don't have groups like this. You know, there's like Meg, the marketing executive groups. This is one of the only ones in the training field that is specific for hospitality trainers to give them development. And a lot of times operators or HR, they struggle with, how do I develop this training person, because they're not really HR, they're not really ops. They live in both of these worlds. And so it's tough. And if you can send them to get this development, it's great for them and it'll be great for your brand.
TJ, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate the chat. Thanks for
Yeah,
chatting
it's
with me
fun.
on Monday. And yeah, we again, like I said, we look forward to seeing what comes next.
Perfect. Appreciate the time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.